Do we Homo sapiens deserve anything? Are we worthy of anything at all in this world? Is there anything that we owe nature? Before we can get even close to answering any of these questions, we need to explain why we exist in the first place. Religiously looking at it, it makes total sense. Well, at least to the believers it does. Adam and Eve ate the forbidden fruit, God didn't like that and sent them down on earth. From there on, the population multiplied, people started spreading all over the planet, and evolved into unique cultures and different beliefs of supreme power that defines them. But if we aren't the result of evolution, then why are these ancient remains so similar to us? Especially the last potentially human species that went extinct, the Neanderthals. According to this belief, the remains found from hundreds of thousands of years ago that resemble modern-day humans were just that of extinct primate species. And this is exactly what contradicts the second possibility, the theory of human evolution. From evolution's perspective, the answer may be that Neanderthals and other possible human species that were present at that time weren't as mentally developed as Homo sapiens. This means when the Earth started freezing during the Ice Age, these species couldn't figure out ways to protect themselves against the cold and survive in the long run. So when the ice that lasted 2.6 million years started melting just 11,000 years ago, the only human species that came out of it was Homo sapiens.
Or maybe not. You see, judging by the skull size of Neanderthals, they were most probably just as smart as we are. We may be able to apply this theory to other species, but when it comes to Neanderthals, they were very likely to be outcompeted by Homo sapiens, or a disease killed them. But for now, let's just get back to the video.
So why do you exist? If we try to answer this question from theory of evolution's point of view, the question alters into something more like how you exist rather than why. There isn't anything solid enough to consider as the entire purpose of your existence with this theory. When there is no reason for you to be, then the cause that led you into being is just an ocean full of two possibilities. A, just lucky coincidences that stacked up over millions of years and eventually turned into you. Or B, natural selection at its finest. Natural selection means millions of years of a specific environment, choosing what works for survival and discarding what doesn't. Now the term choose doesn't imply that if a fish couldn't survive on land, it simply grew legs and lungs. No, it means thousands of generations of that animal with genes mutating each time slowly figured out what works best in the environment. So of course, the second option makes more sense and is easier to follow. So you can't answer the why with the theory of evolution. What this would mean is that your only purpose of existence is to survive. But you can get an answer much better with religion. The Quran describes humans as Khalifa, the greatest of all beings. Chapter 2, verse 30 says that humans are vicegerents or stewards placed on earth by Allah, carrying a divine trust called the Amana, that no mountain or sky was willing to bear. We exist to worship, to build justly, and take care of what God made. Genesis chapter 1, verse 27 establishes that humans are made imago Dei, set apart from all other creatures and given dominion over the earth. The purpose here is relational, to know God, glorify Him, and live in communion with His creation. Judaism roots human worth in the concept of Selam Elohim, but adds the idea of Tiku Olam, excuse my pronunciation, which means repairing the world. The Talmud takes this so far as to say that saving a single human life is like saving an entire world. Across all three Abrahamic religions, the answer to why we exist is remarkably consistent. We are here intentionally carrying a responsibility that no other creature was given, and our worth is not earned, but granted at the moment of our creation. This directly answers the question that we asked in the beginning of this video. Do we deserve anything? Of course, if we were put down on this rock, we would need a lot for survival and even more to satisfy our wants, with the exception that we be just and do good. If we cause trouble for anyone in any way, then our deservement for what we want becomes heavily questionable. But with the power of will and unfathomable amount of knowledge and abilities that we bear compared to other living beings, are we more deserving than them? Does greater ability to think make us worthy of control over everything else? Well, apparently, it definitely gave us the power and abilities to conquer and alter the planet however we want. As a result, we have transformed the planet into something that is truly ours, and have endangered many species. So is there anything that we owe nature? Now obviously, nature as a whole doesn't have any feelings, preferences, or any expectations from us. But we do value nature because we are a part of it, and we are absolutely nothing without it. We protect as much as we need for our own sake. We protect it for our own well-being. Sure, this might be where the morality stuff starts creeping in. But if there is no God, what is it that defines morality for us humans? Philosophers? Is morality ever changing? Is it evolving throughout human history? Why does evil exist if God doesn't want bad from us or for us? Well, I'm not planning to stretch this video too long, so let me just demonstrate it for you.
I don't believe in God.
God?
If God exists, why did he create evil, injustice, and these wars?
Strong question, but let me ask you about physics. Does cold exist?
Of course it does exist. We feel it and we get sick from it. What kind of question is that?
Scientifically, cold isn't a physical thing. It's just the absence of heat.
Weird. What about darkness? Does it not exist either?
Exactly. Darkness is the absence of light. You can't measure darkness, but you can measure light. Evil is the exact same thing. God didn't create evil. It's just the absence of God's light and guidance from human hearts. Wars and injustice aren't the proof of God's absence. They are the proof of how ugly the world gets when humans choose to live in the darkness. Now, keeping religion out of the way, are we worth anything within this world? Different thinkers have come to this differently. Sartre believed humans are born with no built-in purpose or value. We have to create it ourselves as we go. That sounds dark, but he meant it as freedom. Kant, on the other hand, disagreed completely. He said every single human has dignity just by existing, disregarding what they do or achieve, just because they are simply human. You can put a price on a house or a car, but you cannot put a price tag on a person. The Stoics added something practical. Your worth shows up in how you handle life, in your character, in choosing to do the right thing even when it's hard. But maybe the simplest argument to human worth isn't found in philosophy at all. It's found in how we actually live. We grieve when people die, we sacrifice for strangers, we make art, we fall in love. A world with no real worth in it wouldn't produce any of that. The fact that we feel loss so deeply, that we reach out to each other, that we create beautiful things knowing we won't live forever, that tells you something. We may not be able to prove human worth on paper, but we act like it's real every single day. And that itself might be enough to some extent. Think about this for a second. Every single human being on this planet shares 99.9% of the exact same DNA. We all feel pain the same way, we all love our children the same way, we all fear death the same way. We are, by every biological measure, the same family. So why do we act like we aren't? At some point in history, humans started drawing lines on the ground and saying everything on this side is mine and everything on that side is yours. Those lines became borders, and those borders turned into countries. And those countries became identities that people were willing to die for. But why do countries even exist? The honest answer is survival and control. Early human groups clustered together for protection, shared resources, and organized labor. Over time, those groups developed their own languages, cultures, and leadership structures. Geography did a lot of work too. Mountains, rivers, and oceans naturally separated people and let different civilizations develop independently. Then came empires, colonization, wars, which redrew those lines violently and artificially. Many country borders that we see today, especially in Africa and the Middle East, were literally drawn by European colonial powers with a ruler and a pen, cutting straight through ancient communities and tribes without a second thought. Adding religion into this and it gets even more complicated. Islam, Christianity, and Judaism come from the same roots. The same Abraham, the same God, and the same basic message. Be just, be merciful, love your neighbor. If you put their core teachings side by side, they agree on more than they disagree on. And yet, these three faiths have been at the center of some of the most bloodiest conflicts in human history. Every single one of those traditions calls loving and merciful. And it didn't stop at interfaith conflict. Christianity alone has 45,000 denominations. People took the same Bible, the same Jesus, and built 1,000 different versions of the faith. Most historians and sociologists point to the same thing. Religion and politics kept merging. The moment faith became tied to land, identity, and power, it became more of a tool than a spiritual thing. A way to unite your group and demonize others. A way to convince soldiers that God was on their side. A way to justify taking what wasn't yours. It's not faith that was the problem, it was the hunger for power. And religion just got recruited into that hunger. The deepest irony of all this is that at the core of every single tradition, it's the same thing. The Quran says it, the Bible says it, and the Talmud says it. We all read those words. We all nod along. And then we go back to the borders, the divisions, and power. As if the sacred text was meant for everyone else and not us. Maybe we don't need to solve all of that today. Maybe the point is just to keep asking the same question honestly. Because a species that stops asking why it exists, that's when we should start worrying. See you in the next one. Thank you for watching.